I'm going to give you the basic safety rules,
mm-hmm.
and the normal processes, things. For every rule I give you, there's an exception.
Sure.
And you have to assess every situation. And I would never say that you did something wrong if it was your life was in danger. Things were at risk. There is nothing here that's worth saving.
Right.
Okay? And if powering this thing out and destroying it gets you home safely, it's worth doing. Whenever you're using a winch line, you want to wear gloves. And even if you switch over to synthetic, I'd suggest you wear gloves. The reason for that is these wires can get little frays in them, and if they catch your hand, it'll just rip them right up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the things you need to do is inspect your winch line periodically, make sure it's in good shape. And for the little broken wires in here, I want to show you this. This is what we call one lay. Say we start here. If we follow this one wire all the way around until we come back up to the top, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's one lay. So it's one twist.
One revolution.
Right, and then the one that I marked is one strand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then it has little wires inside there. The basic rule is if you have 4 broken wires in one strand, or you have 12 broken wires in one lay, you need to retire this rope. Now, if it's up here at this end,
You just cut it off.
you can cut it off and you'd be fine. There's some other things to look for in here too. If you get a kink in this thing, or it's flattened, or if you get what they call a bird cage, where all these are opened up,
mm-hmm.
you have like a bird's nest in there. All of those would be reasons to retire that cable.
Mm-hmm.
The synthetic rope is much more forgiving on this type of stuff. It can get flattened, so forth. I mean, you can damage them. They don't take rough abuse at all. If you scrape it over a rock or something, it'll cut it right off. Let's go over some hand commands,
Okay.
hand signals. When you're winching, sometimes you have an assistant to help you. And if you're in the vehicle and your assistant's out here, it's good to communicate by hand signals. You may not be able to hear over the distance that you're apart or over the noise and things. So we're going to use some common ones. This means stop.
Okay. Stop.
I mean stop, either one, or stop.
Really stop.
Yeah, really stop. Anything overhead like this means winch in. So it doesn't matter which way I turn my hand.
Yeah, it's just
or whether I'm using left or right.
Uh-huh.
It's winching in. This one down here means winch out.
Okay.
And then the other thing is what we call a bump, like this. And with a bump, every time your assistant says bump it, what you do is you just pull the trigger down and let go.
Mm-hmm. Just
a quick bump on the trigger. All right, so if show you that. Pull this out. A bump would look like something like this. That's a bump.
Uh-huh.
A couple places you use that. One, obviously, when you're right up here close and you're just doing your final tightening,
Mm-hmm.
putting it away and stowing it, you can just bump it in. The other is when we do a rigging. Before we actually get to hardcore winching and pulling, we're going to take all the tension up on the line and then re-inspect all our connections. And right at the end, you would just bump that. You don't want to overstress this thing as you pull it in.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more, and it looks like this. Okay. And what that means is I need to put my hands in this winch somehow, to adjust the cables or get things lined up or something.
Okay.
And I don't want you
touching
the controls. And in fact, the ideal solution is you would go like this. All right. So I can see your hands are off the control and there's no way you can touch it.
Okay.
As long as you and your partner agree on the commands, you're certainly free to use other commands. But for today, that's what we're going to use, and that's a pretty good set.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A winch and all the other tools we use, the straps, the jacks, they're all dangerous equipment. and you need to have a very healthy respect for them. In fact, winch could be lethal. This could cause death or injury to yourself or anybody around you. So it's really important to pay attention to safety on this thing and not overload the capability of this thing. I want to go over a few of the safety issues with you. The first one we already talked about, which is always wear gloves when you're dealing with this cable. The other thing is to work at least an arm's length away from the cable when it's being wound in. Why don't you pick up the controller here and let's wind it in. No, just hold it down. Right now, on top. Now you see this run on here?
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason. And each electric winch has its own distance it's going to run on. This one actually was about 12 to 18 inches, which isn't bad, and that's within that safety zone.
Mm-hmm.
Another safety rule is always walk this hand over hand.
And not slide.
Yeah, don't let it slide through your hands. Again, it's because of the little broken wires and things that could cut your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just practice that one. Go ahead and wind it in a little bit. Now just so when you get down here towards the end, that's what this strap is for in actual fact. This one is designed, it's almost impossible to hang on to this really tight.
Mm-hmm.
So if something happens, you tend to slip off it. Plus it keeps your hands out of the way. Probably one of the most important safety rules is once this is under load, we want everybody at all possible out of the danger zone. Typically, I'll pull out the winch. Now this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm only pulling it out this far. But I would walk over this far and say, I don't want anybody any closer than the full length on both sides. And I don't want anybody behind the winch in either direction. Okay, and the reason is if this breaks and goes flying, we want everybody out of that danger zone.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that are going to be in it are the people that have to control this thing. And your safest place, actually, if you're controlling it, is in the vehicle. That would be your safest place. Sometimes that's not possible because of what's going on here. One other thing on the when you're winding this up, if you're out here controlling this, watch out what's going on back here. You know, this thing could be coming in and tangle you up in your feet.
Mm-hmm.
The cable tends to want to do this, especially when you get more of it out. You also, those loops could catch you behind and pull you right in or tangle up in your legs.
Mm-hmm.
Another safety issue was when we're rigging this up and the cable's laying on the ground like this, and we're walking back and forth. You put your foot on the cable anytime you have to cross it, like that. And the reason for that is if for some reason that cable all of a sudden got taut, it would throw you off.
Mm-hmm.
If you are like this and that happened, you cut you in half.
Yeah.
Or at least you get a raspberry in the back of your calf.
Right.
One or the other. Another thing, as far as safety goes, is we don't drive around with this plugged in.
Right.
You could accidentally trigger this and all of a sudden start spewing out your winch line and get it all tangled up in the vehicle. So we don't drive around with it in here. When it's hooked up, it needs to be put in a way so that it will not interfere with this, get caught in the line. So this is an example like in here. That'll keep it out of there. You could tie it around a little knot around here and then plug it in so that there's no stress on it. And if you're going to winch from inside the vehicle, here, just on the inside there, and you can loop it up over the window wiper like that. And now you have a nice secured line that's out of the way.